Now it's time for me to introduce my guest, Stephen Pope. He is the founder of MyAmazonGuy.com, which is a marketing agency managing more than 300 active brands. He is a best-selling author of his book, Amazon Selling Tips, which, by the way, made the top list all over Amazon. He started his career as a TV news producer in Idaho and then was an e-commerce director for over 10 years for brands from gold and silver coins to women's plus size clothing. He has created My Amazon Guy, and his agency has 300 plus employees, and they are all about growing traffic and sales on Amazon. He also owns My Refund Guy, My Warehouse Guy, and 4 other Amazon brands. His YouTube channel is what he is most known for, and he's had millions of views on his more than 1,500 videos he shares on all things Amazon. So I want to welcome you, Stephen, to the SmallBizChat podcast.
Thanks for having me on.
Oh gosh, I'm excited to talk to you because I'm like, dude, how did you become like the Amazon guy, right? Tell me about that.
Well, the wife and I were in the laundry room one day and I decided I was going to start a company. And she said, well, how do people normally introduce you? And I'm like, they don't really care who I am. They just say, go talk to my Amazon guy. And she looked at me and I looked at her and I was like, okay, that's the name. But yeah, I've been selling on the Amazon platform for a decade and it's definitely not passive income. It's very difficult to sell on Amazon. What the buyer experiences is seamless, but what the seller goes through to make that happen is very complicated.
All right. So, what factors should you consider when you're deciding even what products to sell on Amazon?
I personally think you should stick to what you know. A lot of people out there are data wizards and they can go in and look at hot trending subjects and other products like that. But I think it's better to stick to products you understand. So if you're a dentist and you sell some sort of bamboo dental floss, you're probably going to have an edge. If you're a chemist and you make the next supplement to increase testosterone, you're probably going to have a better chance of success versus the next guy who doesn't have that association or understanding. So when you stick to the products you understand, you're the customer avatar. You have an edge. You have an understanding of how to cope with all the ups and downs of entrepreneurship. As you all know, running a small business every single day is very difficult. So having an edge, a decade of experience using a product, selling a product prior to even trying to launch or source or manufacture it, it's going to be a long advantage when you're selling on Amazon.com.
I believe you. So let's talk about all of the stuff that Amazon will put you through to sell on their platform. So talk about like their seller policies and guidelines and fee structures and how does one learn to navigate all this stuff?
Trial and error, and you have to pay your tax, right? There's no 4-year college degree to go learn how to sell on Amazon. And even if you are the most educated PhD person, you study every help file Amazon has ever put out there, I pretty much guarantee you're going to make thousands of dollars in mistakes in your first year selling on Amazon. Obviously, as an agency, I'm biased, come hire me, whatever. But just navigating all of that information, this is what has been kind of a core to my business. I like to joke that I run an education company that happens to be an agency. And so the way that we've gone about doing this is just simply seeing what's happening on accounts in real time. We post videos about how and it impacts people and what's going on with that. But there's a lot of places you can learn. You can learn directly from Amazon. You can learn from would-be Amazon gurus like me posting things on YouTube. But at the end of the day, no matter how much learning you do in advance before you launch your first product on Amazon, I just guarantee you're going to make thousands of dollars in mistakes. So you really need to embrace the fact that you're going to have to pad for mistakes. So if you think you're going to have a 30% net margin your first year, let me tell you, 20% of that is going to be eaten in mistakes. So be prepared to pay your tax when selling on Amazon.
I love it. I love it. I love straight talk small business advice. All right. So talk to me about what is your process to conduct your market research and competitive analysis on Amazon? Like how are you, because Amazon is famous for not giving up data. So tell me, how can you even do this effectively?
In 2024, surprisingly, we actually have pretty much all of the data available on Amazon. We know what product sells for how much, how often, how many units are churning. We know who the sellers are. We can trace where the source of that inventory is coming from. There's all kinds of data and tools out there. And so in reality, there's too much data. And so a lot of time data paralysis occurs when trying to figure that out. But if you're in your living room right now, you're doing the 9 to 5 job, and you're thinking to yourself, how do I get out of this? How do I start my own business or my own company? The reason why Amazon is attractive is because it's the greatest transfer of wealth in my lifetime between somebody who has no millionaire background, no inheritance, whatever, and being able to create millionaires on the Amazon.com platform. So that's why people are doing it. And if you're trying to figure out like how to just decipher between the data sets and what to trust, at the end of the day, I really think people have to get back to their roots and understanding what they know. So if you're trying to decide between whether I attach myself to that fidget spinner, which was hot 5-6 years ago, you're going to be caught off guard, and you're going to end up selling the same exact product everybody else is if you just pay attention to trends and just look at the data. So stick to what you know when you're trying to go about that. Don't get stuck in data paralysis.
All right, so let's talk about sourcing products. Where I once had a expert tell me you make your money when you buy your products, not when you sell it. So what are some of your best resources for sourcing products for selling on Amazon?
First time sellers, probably Alibaba. More advanced sellers are going to make a trip over to China, and they're going to go visit manufacturer facilities directly. I've been to Guangzhou, and I've been to the big summit. The buildings there are gigantic. We're talking like 6 football fields in size of buildings all connected to each other, thousands of merchants hawking their goods. I've been to that. I don't think that's where I would go again. I would go directly to manufacturers. So establishing one-to-one peer direct relationships to the source of an item. And the reason for that is because if you don't do it that way, you might end up working with a broker who's going to take that extra 5 or 10% off the top. Just like you were mentioning, when you make your purchase is when you make your profit. And so if you can't get your cost of good down, your COGS down as much as possible, then it won't matter how much marketing dollars you spend or don't spend, the profits just won't be there. And in today's age, Chinese manufactured goods is still a best practice. Yeah, their costs are still the lowest. Their knowledge on how to make things is still the best. I hope one day that changes, and I hope we bring it back to the States, and I hope we, fix manufacturing. But I've made multi-million-dollar mistakes myself trying to manufacture goods in the United States. It's just really difficult. I started a holster brand called Holstit. We tried to manufacture holsters directly in the North Carolina area, and I got to tell you, it was a disaster. I couldn't compete with the Chinese-made products. Americans, even though they might have a little bit of patriotism, just simply did not care to buy an American-made product at a premium in this category. So at the end of the day, Alibaba, best place to start if you're a first-time seller.
Good advice. Good advice. All right. So let's talk about pricing strategy, right? Because if you're selling on Amazon, Amazon can get you 3 different ways to give them money on one sale, right? So can you talk to me about how can you build your pricing strategy so that you take into account your competition, but that you actually make a profit with every sale?
I like to ignore my competition as much as possible, which is not something you'll hear a lot of experts say. A lot of experts are like paying super close attention to them. But I find that if you just focus on your customer, ask your customer, what do you want? Give it to them. And then ask, did you get what you wanted? That's the best way to build any business ever. And if you try and follow the competitor on pricing, if you win on price today, you'll probably lose on price tomorrow, realistically. And you can't beat the Chinese on price. If you're an American-made business, American-owned business that uses Chinese manufacturing, you're going to be competing against other products that have a lower price. So your best option is to outmarket them and build a brand, just like GoPro did when they had all of their videos they put out about how you can go pro, right? And it's a very aspirational type brand with a lot of baggage that comes with the aspiration of getting outside. So when you go to build your brand, you can't just simply have a commodity item. You can't just simply sell a chef knife and expect it to work, because when it comes to commodities, you'll lose on price. So you got to build a brand.
Love it. I love that advice because that is advice that I give people. What you want to be is a brand in demand. So I love that advice. All right. So tell us about Amazon fulfillment services versus, putting the package in the what is it, the envelope yourself and shipping it. Talk about the pros and cons of that.
All right. So FBA, fulfilled by Amazon, gets you that nice nifty Prime badge on Amazon, and it will triple your sales, which is really important when you're first starting out. So it's critical. A lot of items don't do very well at FBA, big items, bulky items, heavy items, stuff like that. And you might have to ship it out of a warehouse. But the nice thing about FBA is that Amazon has solved logistics. Amazon is a marketplace, but more so than that, they're a logistics company. They figured out how to get stuff from point A to point B as fast as possible. We all love our 2-day shipping Prime. Well, now it's 1-day Prime. Now it's same-day Prime. Oh, is that too slow for you? Okay, 2-hour delivery, no problem. That's what Amazon has pulled off as a logistics company. It's pretty amazing. One mistake that I made, though, was trusting FBA too much. This is a hot sauce bottle that I personally launched on the Amazon platform. It's a 5-pound glass bottle. I paid Amazon to do the prep work for this. That was my biggest mistake. They did the bubble wrap. Everything was going well so far. They threw on the sticker, and then they put it on the shelf. Well, then when they went to pull it to ship it to the consumer, they shipped it out in freaking padded envelopes. And padded envelopes with glass bottles, as you can imagine what happened next. There was shards everywhere, glass, sauce, you name it, all over the mail, all over the envelopes. The consumers that bought my product were not happy campers. It was a big, big problem. So you have to ship your items pre-boxed, ready to go directly to the consumer before it gets to Amazon FBA. And that is the tax I had to pay to learn how to sell on Amazon.
I think that is a really good story. I'm glad you told it. And I could just smell the barbecue sauce in my mailbox screaming, right? That sounds horrible. Right. So,
you get the product right, and then it just goes to crap after that. If the logistics doesn't work.
And then they kill you in the reviews on top of it. Speaking of reviews, right? So if Amazon is handling this shipment and Amazon, you're buying it through Amazon, how do you ethically solicit reviews? I've seen people try to bribe people for reviews, and I know that's against Amazon's policy, but tell me about how you get that review if Amazon is really the provider and not you, right? It's not like Amazon's giving you an email list of everybody they shipped a product to for you. So how do you do it?
You don't. You get sales, and that's it. Amazon is a marketplace that doesn't give you any access to consumer data and no ability to market and talk to those consumers. So because of that, you can't generate reviews with any actions you take. There are people who have tried to use product inserts, unethically sending mailers, following the shipments, offering discounts if they post a picture. But all of those companies will not be in business for much longer. Amazon has cracked down on any review generation that offers incentives. They've made very clear strides about cracking down on this. Unfortunately, a lot of the Chinese-owned companies, they just open up a dozen accounts and they skirt it as much as possible and try and work around the system, and that happens. So a lot of times the white hat small business owner in the United States, it's a very difficult ride to try and go through that, especially when you're first launching that product and that first review comes in and it's 1 star and you're like, my entire livelihood is right here in these stars. But at the end of the day, 1 out of 100 customers will typically leave a review. And so with that in mind, if you want to get 10 reviews, you got to go generate 1,000 orders.
I love it. I love it. Listen, when we come right back on the SmallBizChat podcast, we're going to talk about how do you generate traffic and sales on Amazon. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Melinda Emerson, the Small Biz Lady, and I want to welcome you to smallbizladyacademy.com. your go-to resource for women entrepreneurs. Whether you're just starting out or ready to grow, we've got everything you need to succeed. From expert interviews to live coaching sessions, our platform offers practical tools and strategies to help you build a profitable small business. Join our vibrant community of like-minded entrepreneurs today and take your business to new heights. Visit smallbizladyacademy.com and start your journey.
Welcome back to the Small Biz Chat podcast. I'm Melinda Emerson, Small Biz Lady, your host, and I'm talking with Stephen Pope. We're talking about all things Amazon. All right, Stephen, tell me, how do you drive traffic and sales on Amazon? Like, I know it's like a Captain Obvious question, but I don't think it really is. Just because they got traffic doesn't mean their traffic's coming to you. So talk to us how we actually get customers on Amazon.
My favorite two ways to get traffic are SEO and PPC. So search engine optimization, this is where you're going to put copy into the listing. You're going to put it into the code of the listing in search terms or alt text of the photos, making sure there's crawlable text on the listing. The second is PPC or pay-per-click advertising. This is the pay to win sort of aspect to get to the top of the search results. And Amazon is making a killing on ads these days. They actually make more money from sellers on advertising than they do on AWS in 2024. So that gives you some perspective how popular driving traffic on Amazon is. SEO and PPC, though, are the ways to go.
That is extraordinary because AWS, they're minting money in the basement. So you're telling me that they are fleecing sellers because now you got to buy ads on Amazon? Great. All right.
And there's a lot of damn ads on Amazon.
I know, because I'm a heavy Amazon user. All right. Tell us, how do you really track and analyze your performance metrics on Amazon? What is the best way to do that?
There's a lot of metrics you could look at. Top line sales with the revenue. Everybody's pulling out their cell phone and showing their sales for the day. And a lot of people like to track and look at that. I'm going to pull mine up right now. And everybody's got their seller app where they're looking at what the sales have been for today. But the other ones that I look at, traffic, keyword rankings, conversion rates, and CTR. There's my little chart for the day today. And a lot of people are posting screenshots of that on social media, and you'll see the YouTube thumbnails with all the gurus showing that. So everybody's about top line. But in reality, profit is really where people should focus more time and attention, because you could be $1 million seller, but if you don't have a 15% profit, you might as well go take that 9-to-5 job back and work on corporate America.
Wow, I think you really said a whole lot right there. All right, last question, Stephen. What is the best business advice that you have ever been given?
You need to have thinking time. One of my favorite things I do is get away from the office, sit on a chair on the beach or walk on the beach and just have time to think. Most of my mistakes generally come from large 1, 2, 3 big mistakes in my life where I spent $2 million trying to build a software when I'm an agency, or other big events like that. And I've tried to go outside of my sector of intelligence. And so I got to stick to my zone of genius. So thinking time, just having time scheduled where you only think, is the best advice I've ever received.
I love it. I love it. Stephen, thank you so much for being here. My Amazon guy. I think you might just be becoming that guy for me. Anyway, all right.